Number 5. Black and blonde. Baby Machi looks a little different than her parents.
We have a blonde, in a complete black family.
And before you go there, no infidelity happened.
I'm sure, personally, that is my kid.
Geneticists have found that several genes shared across the globe can influence skin pigmentation. One variant has been shown to lighten skin in Europeans and hunter-gatherers in Botswana. These variants have been found in ancestors more than 300,000 years old. Albinism, a genetic disorder resulting in a lack of pigment in the skin, hair, and eyes, could result in a case like Machi's. But experts believe that the more likely scenario was that both parents inherited the white skin gene from distant ancestors, or it was simply a case of genetic mutation. Despite her coloring, parents Angela and Ben insist
she's black.
She's black.
Pregnancy is crazy at the best of times, but these stories are truly mind-blowing. How did one woman deliver 2 babies through 2 separate uteri? And why was this 92-year-old woman pregnant for over 50 years? This is Your Body On, the top 5 craziest pregnancy stories. Number 4. Twin wombs. Move over, Octomom. You may have 14 kids, but this Michigan mother has twice the equipment. Sarah Reinfelder wowed the world when she gave birth to twin girls, one from each of her wombs. Sarah was born with uterus didelphys, a rare congenital disorder that forms 2 uteruses. She was diagnosed in 2007 after suffering a miscarriage. With this condition, each uterus is smaller and can restrict fetal growth. The odds of a successful pregnancy are about 1 in 5 million.
I was very mad, and I thought, why on earth can I not just have a normal body like everybody else?
Sarah defied all odds when she successfully gave birth to a son in 2009. But she became worldwide news when she became pregnant with twins.
We were happy. We were thrilled. Shocked.
Sarah's delivery was a first for obstetrician Dr. Connie Hedmark.
I've done thousands of C-sections, but not one side by side.
But the operation went smoothly.
All of a sudden, we hear the best scream I've ever heard in my life.
All 3 kids are doing great. Number 3. Marathon Mommy. Amber Miller was nearing the finish line of the 42-kilometer, 26-mile Chicago Marathon when she started experiencing what she thought were Braxton Hicks contractions. After completing the race, she headed to the hospital to find she was 5 centimeters or 2 inches dilated. And I can't even push through a cramp. Amber's marathon sparked controversy online, with people claiming that all that running could hurt the baby.
You're jostling the fetus.
But medical guidelines say that if a woman is active and healthy before she gets pregnant, running during pregnancy is fine. Mom just needs to be careful about not getting winded. As long as she's getting oxygen, so is the baby. Since Chicago was her 8th marathon, this was a walk in the park for Amber and baby June.
The race was definitely easier than the labor.
If you relate more to Andy than Amber,
Running is impossible.
avoid picking up marathons during pregnancy. Number 2. Stone Baby. Huang Yijun of southern China carried a fetus in her body for 50 years before finally having it removed at the age of 92. The baby had died during development and, over time, calcified to stone. Known as lithopedions or stone babies, there are only 290 reported cases of this phenomenon. It develops from ectopic pregnancies when a fertilized egg gets stuck outside the uterus. If the baby is small enough when it dies, the body will break it down. But if the baby is too large to be absorbed, as in Huang's case, the remains calcify to protect the body from infection. Because the mass isn't recognized as foreign by the body, it doesn't pose any serious complications. Some women can go decades without even knowing they have one, while others may experience heaviness in the abdomen, pelvic pain, or compression of organs. Huang was aware of her condition but didn't have the finances to get the stone removed. Stone baby or not, lack of universal health care is a problem for many women worldwide. Number 1. The medical miracle. At 1.2 meters or 4 feet tall and with nearly no body muscle, Shuri Pasalia defied all odds by carrying her baby to term. Even more impressive, Shuri wasn't supposed to make it past her first birthday. The Australian native was born with arthrogryposis multiplex congenita. This rare condition causes her to have little tissue in her arms and legs and makes it difficult to move her joints. Doctors warned her that she was too small to support a baby. But Cherie and her husband Chris were confident she would pull through. Her pregnancy was anything but easy. About a week before giving birth, Cherie was barely able to stand. Doctors inserted a peripherally inserted central catheter, or PICC line, into her arm in preparation for a scheduled cesarean. This allowed doctors to access the largest veins closest to her heart to deliver medications quickly. Cherie hoped to stay awake during the procedure, but her curved spine made an epidural impossible. Instead, doctors opted for general anesthetic. Her miracle baby Hayden was born at 7 months. Weighing 2.5 kilograms or 5.5 pounds at birth, he has no disabilities and is a happy little boy.
A California grocery store erupted in screams when a customer went into labor. 3 employees called 911. All were put on hold. The butcher threw on his apron and caught the newborn in the nick of time. The store owner saw the umbilical cord around the baby's neck, called for scissors, and cut the cord. Clean up in aisle 5. The paramedics arrived shortly after and took the mother and baby to the hospital. The healthy baby's name is Toby. There are 9,000 non-hospital births in America every year. What are the strangest? This is Your Body On, the 10 craziest places to give birth. Before laboring mother Erica and her husband called an Uber to the hospital, she made a simple prayer.
Please, make it fast and easy.
Well, her prayers were answered. They made it only 2.4 kilometers before Erica went into active labor.
He's coming out.
The driver pulled into the Whole Foods parking lot where the baby slid right out without a single push from Erica. Some of us are born for a life in the fast lane, I guess. Margarita's trip to the Magic Kingdom really lived up to its name. While her husband rode Space Mountain, she embarked on the ride of her life. She rushed to the medical tent and gave birth to a healthy baby girl. The little girl is one of only 3 babies born in the park. It's not for lack of trying. Many laboring mothers have actually tried delivering at Disney due to an urban legend that promises a free lifetime pass. But head for the hospital, ladies. There's no free pass. Nicknamed the Big Shrimp, Brian Mahor was born, you guessed it, on a shrimp boat. When Mom Cindy went into labor in the open waters, Captain Edward Kiesel rushed into action. Following a first aid manual, he saw that the baby was in breech position and coming up butt first. He reached into the birth canal to help free the baby's legs and get its head out safely. Then he boiled scissors and 3 pieces of twine to tie off the umbilical cord. Baby Big Shrimp was lucky to have the captain look after him. Roughly 95% of breech babies are delivered through C-section, as it is a risky position. Alice Payne slept through delivering her baby. Lucky. At 38 weeks pregnant, doctors injected the expectant mother with hormones to induce labor. Later, the machine monitoring her contractions didn't show the doctors how far her labor had progressed. They gave her medicine so she could sleep for a few hours. Incredibly, Alice went into labor while she was sound asleep. She described hearing her partner's voice telling her when to push as she slept. Payne only woke up for the last 10 minutes of delivery, then dozed off again. Many women consider it a private experience, but Nancy Salguero educates people about childbirth. So she streamed her 3rd child's natural home birth live on YouTube. Knowing the baby was in breech position, Salguero's husband performed Webster's in utero technique. It's an adjustment of the pelvis that creates space for the baby to reposition itself into a head-first position. When the baby was positioned correctly, the newborn soon came out safe and sound.
Birth really can be such a wonderful experience, and it doesn't have to be associated with any kind of pain or discomfort. And that was my experience of my birth.
The creation of life is a beautiful thing. Marnie Kotak wanted to share that beauty with the world. The Brooklyn-based artist exhibited her son's birth as a piece of performance art. A live audience of 20, a doula and a midwife witnessed her natural birth. That was one messy masterpiece. Special delivery! Sonia Nascimento went into labor at her local post office. She wanted to buy time for her cell phone, but left with her newborn instead. The staff weighed the little one on the parcel scales. At 2.34 kilograms, it would have cost 8 pounds 22 pence to ship the baby by first-class mail. Janelle Wilson planned for a water birth, and she certainly got it. Janelle lived on Scotland's Isle of Mull, a short boat ride from the nearest hospital. When her labor started late at night, the ferry wasn't running. A lifeboat arrived to take the mom-to-be, her husband, and midwife to the hospital. Suddenly, her contractions picked up, her water broke, and the baby was crowning. In mere minutes, Janelle had a healthy baby boy. Janelle said it was actually easier than her first child's birth. Giving birth in a car is no big deal.
Baby's out.
So Amanda McBride turned it up a notch by getting behind the wheel. Her husband accompanied her but could not drive due to a medical condition. While en route to the hospital, Amanda felt her water break and the baby sliding out. She told her husband to take over the steering wheel while she cradled her newborn.
She's so pretty.
An inmate awaiting trial for identity fraud was made to feel invisible when nurses and deputies ignored her cries for help. About 6 hours later, she had no choice but to deliver her baby herself. She sued the city and the health department. They settled the case out of court. The baby, who was trying to tunnel out of prison, concluded that they must have taken a wrong turn somewhere.
I knew I should have taken that left turn at Albuquerque.
If you think that's wild, we have even more crazy places people have given birth. From surrounded by lions to during a flight. Here are 9 more of the craziest births. The downside to living in a condo is always the time it takes for the elevator to take you to the ground floor. And when you're pregnant, the stairs simply aren't an option. A woman in Ontario, Canada, was taking the elevator down from her condo as paramedics escorted her to the hospital. However, her labor began in the tightly packed elevator. Thankfully, she had 4 trained paramedics with her, and the ordeal was over quickly. For some women, labor can last for hours. For Caitlin Fullerton, it was about 10 minutes. Caitlin and her husband were driving home across Texas when Caitlin suddenly felt nature calling. They stopped at a gas station so Caitlin could use the bathroom, but while she was there, Caitlin began to go into labor. After only 10 minutes, Caitlin's son was born. I guess even babies don't want to be stuck in a gas station bathroom. Can't blame them. Clean up on aisle 7. This mom delivered her 6th child while checking out her groceries. Thanks to a brave cashier who had 0 medical training, the baby was safely delivered before anyone called for an ambulance. Late-night host Seth Meyers and his wife received a very precious package in the lobby of their apartment building. The couple was on their way to the hospital, but Mrs. Myers realized she was going to give birth right then and there. 2 years earlier, their first child was almost born inside an Uber. Maybe they should leave the house earlier next time. The attendance figure at this San Diego Padres game had needed recounting after a woman gave birth around the 3rd inning.
A baby boy was born at Petco Park.
Petco Park medical staff delivered the baby, and the home team won 5-4. It's a lucky baby. Baseball doesn't exactly need more superstitions, but go ahead and add live birth to the list. We hereby redefine the Mile High Club to mean when your water breaks at 30,000 feet. As she traveled from Turkey to Chicago, she went into labor. Another passenger, a doctor, helped her through the birth. He hadn't delivered a baby for decades and was delighted that everything went okay. Mengyuban Makwana gave birth to her firstborn child while surrounded by lions. On June 29, 2017, While an ambulance attempted to take her to the hospital to give birth, a dozen lions emerged from the nearby forest and prevented the ambulance from going any further. The lions continued to move around the ambulance, preventing it from traveling for over 20 minutes, which led to the decision that Mangyuban would give birth there, while the lions prowled around them. Thankfully, the lions eventually took their leave, but Mangyuban now has 2 reasons to never forget her child's birthday. Rosita Mabuyango was born in the year 2000, when one of the worst floods to ever hit Mozambique forced her mother to climb up a tree for safety. After being stranded in the tree for 4 days, her mother eventually was forced to give birth while still in the tree. Even wilder, the waters below her were infested with crocodiles. So, Rosita, from the start of her life, was a true survivor. In 2020, India was affected by a flood. One of the victims of this flood was the heavily pregnant Rima Devi, who was in the process of being moved to a safer location. However, as this was happening, Rima went into labor. Thankfully, the child was delivered without complications.
Think of a water balloon. So you have your baby, and then you have the balloon, which is the amniotic sac, and then the water in the balloon is the amniotic fluid. So if it doesn't pop, then that means the balloon didn't pop.
Are you guys seeing this too?
What's happening?
This is called an Encaul birth. It's the amniotic sac around. Baby has no idea they're out in the real world yet.
So it's not something I would usually post, but I've been wanting to share my birth story for a while now because it was batshit crazy, in a great way, but it was crazy. And when people meet me, they often say, "Oh, so you're the girl with the birth story?" And I'm like, yeah. So I'll do it in a couple of parts. If you are pregnant, feel free to watch. There's nothing super gory or overly graphic. And if anything, hopefully it should bring you a bit of kind of comfort as you approach your birth. So I had my daughter 2 years ago, January 2021 in London. I was 4 days overdue and I went to the hospital with really kind of intense cramps, but they sent me home because I wasn't quite 3 in 10 yet. Before they sent me away, they said, "You're only 2 to 3 centimeters, so just go home, relax, you've got a long way to go yet." And I felt a bit embarrassed because I had gone to the birth center saying, I need to push, it's really intense. I could feel quite like a heavy weight. And I'd lost my mucus plug at this point. So when they sent me away, I was a bit like, oh, okay, I'm obviously misreading the signs here because this is really, really intense. But you know, obviously I'm quite early on, so struggled to get back into the car. My husband drove me home. And when I got home, I got this attitude that was like, I'm gonna make sure that I am really kind of dilated as much as I can be before we go back, so we don't get sent away again. So I was bouncing on the ball, I was walking up and down the stairs, I was doing anything I could to try and progress things further. And this, my friends, is where it all starts to kick off. So I got in the bath, I just wanted to be in the water, and I was doing my hypnobirthing. I was 3 and 10 at this point, but it was manageable. And we had the starlights on, I was listening to some really beautiful music, really focusing on my deep breathing. And I just had this feeling and this sense that in my bathroom at home, I was surrounded by my ancestors, and I kept closing my eyes in the bath and feeling this kind of tribe of women behind me. I felt so supported, so held and safe. I can't describe the feeling, and even though it's been 2 years, I really miss it because it was just so powerful and just completely kind of took me over. So this continued for maybe another 45 minutes. At one point I say I really need the toilet, and I hop out of the bath, sit on the toilet. It's the only place that I felt comfortable, and I was having some kind of really big dilation, so I could really feel that I was kind of pushing down. And I thought, fantastic, this means I'm dilating, this means I'm getting closer to going back to the birth centre, so just rode with it. It was totally manageable at this point. And after a couple of really deep kind of pushes, my husband looks up from the bottom of the stairs into the bathroom where I'm sat on the toilet, and he said, Jen, there's a grey bag coming out of you. And my waters hadn't broken at this point, so I was like, fantastic, my waters are breaking, like, awesome. And then I look down and I see the top of the baby's head in what looks like a bag. So realise the baby is coming. I quickly stand up, hold the side of the bath while my husband phones 999, and grab some towels ready to catch the baby. And again, there was just this sense that everything is fine, I'm safe, I'm loved. I didn't feel any fear or panic, which looking back now, I'm like, how could you not? But it was just this kind of safe environment. It's like so hard to describe, but so 2 big pushes, the baby came out. It was like the most satisfying feeling of my life. But then realised the baby's in this really kind of tight bag, almost like the skin on a sausage. So the emergency services were like, she's been born on call, so you need to get her out of the bag. And it was so hard because we were picking at the bag but trying not to scratch her. So I didn't know that on call was a thing, or really what it was before I had a baby, but it affects about 1 in 80,000 births, and so it's quite rare. She wouldn't have known that she was born until we got her out of the sack. And I think at this point we were just completely in shock that she was here, and I was like, how did I not know that I was pushing to give birth? I wasn't just dilating, but I think I was just so transfixed on getting back that I kind of pushed through anything else and just kind of carried on. And the breathing was amazing. I definitely recommend hypnobirthing. It was, you know, so great for me. And then we went to the hospital to go and get a checkup afterwards. We were in the midst of lockdown, so it took about 20 minutes for the ambulance to get to us.
This is my Ozempic baby.
This is my Ozempic baby.
Ozempic is being hailed as a miracle drug for managing diabetes and helping with weight loss. But guess what? That's not the only trick up its sleeve. People who have previously struggled with low fertility or infertility are now getting pregnant with the help of this wonder drug.
I love being pregnant. I've already lost 35 pounds.
They're even calling it Ozempic babies because so many women in the U.S. are having unexpected pregnancies while taking the medication. Can weight loss increase your chance at ovulation? And what are the dangers of taking Ozempic while pregnant? This is Your Body On Ozempic Babies. Many women on social media are telling stories about how Ozempic has helped with their fertility, with many sharing they've become pregnant while taking the drug. Now, as we said, it's a diabetes drug. It's not approved for increasing fertility, and this side effect hasn't been studied. So, what exactly is happening? Well, the Ozempic baby phenomenon can be traced back to two main factors that increase the likelihood of pregnancy. First, there are links between weight loss and increased fertility.
People that are overweight are known to have more difficulty conceiving.
Losing weight can help boost fertility, especially for women with irregular periods. Dr. Karen Wheeler, a reproductive endocrinologist, explains that weight loss can increase ovulation rates. Women who lose weight with Ozempic might start ovulating even if they weren't before, which could lead to pregnancy if they're not using effective contraception. Additionally, a lower body mass index can improve the success rate of assisted reproductive technology. The second factor is that Ozempic might affect the birth control you're taking. There's no direct evidence that Ozempic reduces the effectiveness of oral contraceptives. However, Dr. Karen Wheeler points out that the nausea and vomiting it sometimes causes can affect how well birth control pills are absorbed. Ozempic and other weight loss drugs can slow down stomach processing. This can change how birth control pills are absorbed and how effective they are. Now, if you find out you're pregnant while using Ozempic, you should probably stop taking the drug. Because there's limited research on weight loss drugs during pregnancy, medical experts strongly advise against using them.
If you do have an unplanned pregnancy while on these drugs, don't stress, but do put the needle down.
Studies on animals suggest that weight loss drugs might cause birth defects, miscarriages, or growth issues. Still, we don't have enough data on its safety in humans. It is unclear if Ozempic could harm an unborn baby or if the drug is passed along through breast milk, but I wouldn't test it out if I were you. Also, one of its main purposes is to reduce your appetite, so your unborn baby might not get all the nutrients it needs. I know getting pregnant can be tough for some people, so hearing about the successes of others who are using Ozempic and similar weight loss drugs might make it tempting. If you're trying to get pregnant and also looking to lose weight, doctors recommend exploring other weight loss options instead. And if you're having trouble getting pregnant, talk to a fertility specialist to see what's best for you. If you want to see more stories about how Ozempic has positively and negatively affected others, check out our video, Top 5 Celebs on Ozempic, on Your Body On.